And there's a lot of excitement in-house right now in Big Ten country. You got Ohio State, you got Michigan. We'll talk about them in a second. But think about all the new blood right now. Wisconsin and Luke Fickell. Matt Rule at Nebraska. Mel Tucker isn't new at Michigan State, but it's hard to imagine they're going to stay down. PJ Fleck eats his Wheatings, I'm sure, with a Monster energy drink instead of milk in the morning. Like, there's a lot of excitement around this conference, deservedly so. I think it's a little bit more open than we want to acknowledge it. I think it's a little bit more open than some people want to believe that it is. I just mentioned those teams. I think there's 4 that have a legitimate shot to win the conference in 2023. Ohio State is probably the most obvious answer. The reason being, they have the most talented roster. Like on signing day, if you're just going to go ahead and go down the list and see who has the most guys with stars next to their name and all that, Ohio State's going to blow that out of the water. Brian Hartline, going to be the offensive coordinator there this coming season, recruits skill players pretty much better than anybody else in the game. Here's my question for Ohio State. If they can win the Big Ten Conference, which they haven't done the last 2 seasons, mind you, our friends in Columbus, they know that. That's something on their mind. That's on their mental. How would they get to doing that? Well, you got to beat Michigan. How do you beat Michigan? Can they take another step in terms of toughness in 2023? I said this before. I think there's 2 things that can be true here. Ohio State in 2022 was not tough enough to beat Michigan. However, in 2021 to 2022, you could say Ohio State got tougher in the trenches. And when I say got tougher, you know exactly what I mean. When it comes to 3rd and 3 against Michigan in the 4th quarter, can you be fundamentally sound, both mentally and physically, and play the run effectively? Like, that's really what it comes down to 2 years in a row. Ohio State played really well in the first half this year. We got to be there, actually, which was an absolute blast. But in the second half, the dam broke, and that's how it felt. I know some of that's going to be schematic busts, and I understand that. We can talk about that another time. But the reality is mental toughness is a part of this game, too. And Michigan felt like they were the more mentally tough team, especially in the second half of that game. Can they take the next step in terms of toughness in Columbus? The second question is, you're going to have a 5-star quarterback under center for you. C.J. Stroud gone to the NFL. You can't replace a C.J. Stroud. That's just not possible. But can you keep up quota in terms of production? You're going to have an embarrassment of riches around you. Travion Henderson, Mayan Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., I think has a very real conversation to be the best player in the country in 2023. And you got a 5-star, whether it's Kyle McCord or Devin Brown, 2 really good options. Whoever it is, though, can you keep pace with this offense? Because you're getting the keys to a Ferrari. We say it a lot around here. You know, we love our car analogies. Getting the keys to a Ferrari. Don't crash the car, my man. Do not crash the car. That's all you got to do. Because you're going to have a better vehicle than the majority of your competition. Do not crash the car. And really kick it into overdrive against Michigan. So Ohio State, pressure bursts pipes. It also makes diamonds. Which way are you going to side if you're Ohio State? Because we all know the pressure is enormously high right now at Ohio State. The standard is just different than it is anywhere else in the country at Ohio State. Win national titles, win the Big Ten, beat Michigan. All right, not necessarily in that order, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. But Ohio State, absolutely one of the teams to watch. One of the teams that obviously can win the Big Ten in 2023, among others. More on that in just a second. If you have not yet subscribed, we'd love to have you all a part of this operation, okay? The People's Program. Also follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at JD Piquel. Put a little story out before the show, Nick, did we? And I'm just saying, we were vibing. A little behind-the-scenes look at what we got going before the live show gets going. So I'm just saying, you want to watch that on Instagram. Stays up for, 24 hours? Do the stories? Follow me there. We have a good time there. Michigan is back-to-back Big Ten champs. Michigan's the bully on the block. And here's the reality. When is the bully the most dangerous? Like, when does that bully have the best edge to them? I'll tell you this right now. When they've bullied a few of the people on the block, when they have control of the block. Because you can be a bully on the block, but still not run the block. Right now, Michigan runs the block. You hear what I'm saying here? Michigan has proven to themselves multiple times now with different quarterbacks, different coordinators, different personnel, that they are who they think they are. To quote Dennis Green, they are who they think they are. And I'm paraphrasing there a little bit. It's not exactly the quote, but you hear what I'm saying here. I don't think there will be any drop-off without Matt Weiss. I think Sharon Moore is one of the best offensive coaches in the game right now. Love the way that he controls that offensive line and the way that they have been a Joe Moore award-winning offensive line 2 seasons in a row. They have an identity about themselves, and it is bully ball. It is we're going to move you against your will. Our big human beings will move your big human beings, and we will just have our way. That's the reality. Now, they've got a lot of key pieces coming back. Blake Corum, coming back another year. Cornelius Johnson, coming back another year. On the defensive side, Mike Sanders still coming back another year. The goal is to win a national title. They've got the Big Ten. 2 years in a row, they've got the Big Ten. They've been there, done that. They were happy to make the college football playoff the first year. They did it. This past year, I feel like they let one slip through their fingers against TCU. That's the reality. The goal is national championship or bust, but in order to do that, I believe winning the Big Ten feels like the first step in 2023. Not saying it has to be done. Ohio State, let's be real, if they had made that field goal against Georgia, I think they handled TCU, but for Michigan, run it back again for a third time, be the boy on the block for a third time, J.J. McCarthy take the next step again. They're going to be dangerous. They're going to be dangerous. I don't know what the early line is, if they're favored or not. I would imagine there will be some sort of smoke around them being the favorite to win the Big Ten Conference again. But Michigan, absolutely a team that can win the whole deal. And they want to do more than just win the whole deal. They want to win the whole national deal. So that's Michigan for you. How about Penn State? What do you think about Penn State when I talk about them in the context of winning the Big Ten title? Because, again, we said it, it's a little bit more of an open conference than I think some people want to assume. Ohio State, they're replacing their quarterback. Michigan, they lose some key pieces, bring a lot back, but they lose some key pieces. They lose one of their offensive coordinators. You know how I feel about that. But if you were to talk it out on paper, there's a case to be made for the Big Ten being a little bit more open than it has in the past. And for Penn State, you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, we lose Sean Clifford, who is a legend at State College. No Sean Clifford slander will be tolerated on this program. However, Drew Aller is going to get the keys to the offense next year. And how do I say this correctly? Sean Clifford is one of the best Penn State quarterbacks to ever come through there. At the exact same time, Drew Aller has more physical tools, more God-given ability than Sean Clifford had. So that's the reason why Penn State fans are excited. They say, hey, we from a talent perspective upgrade at quarterback. Oh, by the way, a lot of our other top talent, it's going to get a whole other offseason in the program. And to use Charles Powers' verbiage, and he is the director of scouting and rankings here at On3, so he knows these guys and their skills inside and out. Nick Singleton, one of the best in the country. These guys are going to cycle up. Nick Singleton, best in the country, like I just said. Katron Allen, one of the best in the country. He's going to cycle up. Abdul Carter, freakish linebacker for Penn State. Where's number 11? They don't just hand out the double ones to anybody at Penn State. And he's wearing that on defense as a linebacker, so that should tell you what you need to know about him. The thing for them is they've been knocking on the door here for a minute, and then last year they were sort of pounded on the door. I mean, lost to Ohio State and Michigan, had a really solid shot at half in both those games. This coming season, they are taking a battering ram. They are throwing the entirety of their mass into that door, and they are absolutely bent on breaking it down this time around. Like that is the goal for Penn State. Now, here's where you need to look out. If Penn State beats Michigan or Ohio State, they have a pulse in the Big Ten. You don't need to beat both of them, but if you beat one of them, you don't control your own destiny, but it leaves the door open just a little bit. It doesn't knock the door down, but it does provide a little bit of a crack. And that's a dangerous thing to give this Penn State roster some hope. They've got a lot of talent, like I already said, and with Drew Aller, that's kind of where your money rides. How much better does he allow your team to be? Doesn't have the experience of Sean Clifford, obviously. Put in a really solid 36-year career at Penn State. But Drew Aller, how much better is he able to make you from just a vertical pass game standpoint to complement Nick Singleton? So that's Penn State for you. I'm telling you, they're knocking on the door. They've been on the doorstep for a minute, but I mean, they may just knock that thing down this coming season with the way the way that Penn State is set up and the way the Big Ten is set up. Here's the last thing we want to talk about. I told you there's 4 teams that I think have a legitimate shot to win the whole conference. And this, to me, this team is the most mysterious. It's Wisconsin. The Luke Fickell Wisconsin Badgers. The Phil Longo offensive coordinator for the Wisconsin Badgers. The Tanner Mordecai-led Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin, to me, is a lot like that kid that comes back from summer vacation when school gets back into session, and they've sort of reinvented themselves, right? They've been working out a little bit, look a little bit bigger, muscles a little bit bigger, get a new hairstyle maybe. So you recognize them, you know who they are, but they've got a different edge to them. They've reinvented themselves. So all of a sudden, people want to find out what is different about this individual, what is different about this new kid. And the wrong person messes with them. The wrong person picks a fight. And turns out that kid all summer, he was lifting weights and doing karate. And you just got to deal with the consequences of it, because that's Wisconsin. We've known they were sturdy. We've known they were tough. But now they potentially could add a really explosive offensive system. Phil Longo in North Carolina and Drake May, they were averaging around 30 points a game last year. Tanner Mordecai, one of the sneakiest quarterbacks in this transfer portal cycle coming from SMU. They've got some talent now. They've got some tools here at positions that they haven't always had at Wisconsin. So I'm just saying, we don't know enough about them. We're looking at this thing on paper. They have a shot. I'm just saying, Wisconsin has a shot to ruin someone's day. And if they end up making it to the Big Ten championship, I wouldn't count them out. I would never count a Luke Fickell coach team out. That's just the reality of it. So Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, all I believe have very legitimate chances to win the Big Ten title. Now, Wisconsin, being in the Big Ten West, if they make it to Indy, look out. I'm just saying that. If they make it to Indy, keep an eye on them. First year under Luke Fickell, but they've revamped via the portal at receiver and at quarterback, new offense. I'm telling you, man, it sounds strange to say, but the new kid is back from summer vacation, looks stronger, got a different edge to him, and he knows karate. So God bless whoever wants to mess with Wisconsin. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.